Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Daquan Townsend to defeat Jamal Hill. And I'm here to talk about Brendan Allen versus Paul Craig. Paul Craig is 35 years old, 17-6-1 as a pro, and he's got 1 inch of height and 1 inch of reach over 27-year-old Brendan Allen, who is 22-5 as a pro. And again, I wanted to reiterate, Craig. Paul Craig, he is 17-6-1. All 17 wins are finishes, 4 TKOs, 13 submissions. Guy has never won a decision, and he never fucking will. Paul Craig is just that dangerous. He's got 6 losses, however, and 5 of those come via finish, 4 TKOs or KOs, and 1 submission, and then just 1 decision. And then he had a draw to Shogun, which he avenged by TKO in round 2. But Paul Craig, that's his defining trait defensively. He is vulnerable. I've had doubts about his chin at light heavyweight. Of course, he was fighting light heavyweight monsters. But now he's at middleweight, and he's sucking an extra 20 pounds of water out of his body the night before the fight. So definitely, I will always have questions moving forward about Paul Craig's durability, and I feel like he'd be foolish not to. But he looked pretty damn healthy in his 1 middleweight fight against Andre Muniz. He looked very healthy there, got a second-round finish, took him out with a TKO. He's beaten champions. Jamal Hill, he beat with a, I think that's actually listed as a TKO, but could have easily been a submission. Broke his arm, I think, or dislocated his shoulder, had him in a triangle choke, and was elbowing the shit out of him. He also beat Magomed Ankalaev, who was 1 second away from victory, and he was forced to tap because Paul Craig slapped on a triangle out of nowhere and slapped it on very tightly, again, to the point where Ankalaev tapped instead of napping and winning. But he's dangerous off his back, Paul Craig. That's his defining trait offensively. It's not something a lot of fighters can say. I mean, I'm sure they can all put me in a fucking go-go plata, but in a professional UFC contest, Paul Craig is one of the few guys who is dangerous off his back at this level. And, of course, you got to ask Ankalaev about that. Kennedy and Nzechukwu got him out of there in round 3 with a triangle. Nikita Krylov got him out of there with a triangle while he was caught slipping, throwing a punch, getting a little lazy. You can't relax against Paul Craig, and certainly not from on top of him. You'd probably do a better job relaxing while he's on top of you, but you can't relax. He's one of the most dangerous submission artists in the UFC. But again, he's vulnerable. 4 TKO losses. He's lost to Johnny Walker, defending the takedown. Lost to Alonzo Menafield, Khalil Roundtree, and Tyson Pedro, which was on the ground, actually. Speaking of which, his 1 submission loss was to Jimmy Crute, who Kimura'd him in round 3. And I bring that up because Jimmy Crute, that's precisely the kind of path to victory that Brendan Allen could follow. That or even the Tyson Pedro loss, or fuck it, any one of the knockouts on the feet as well. Brendan Allen, not that he is as powerful as Alonzo Menafield or Johnny Walker, but Brendan Allen is a big, strong, physical kid, and he's come a long way as a striker. The guy's a grappler first and foremost, but he can bang with some very good fighters, with the best fighters. And Paul Craig cannot. Brendan Allen is definitely a much better striker, much more imposing, and certainly more powerful. And I'm picking Brendan Allen to win this fight. I mean, I look at his losses, Brendan Allen, he's got 2 by knockout, 1 by submission, 2 by decision. The submission happened. It was a rear naked choke to Trevin Giles. I think that's his first loss and maybe his 4th fight or something. He lost twice by decision early on to Eric Anders and Fluffy Hernandez. Those are 2 UFC fighters currently, I believe. I feel like I haven't seen Eric Anders in some time. And his 2 most recent losses are TKO losses. They're both in round 2 to Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis. Besties. And the besties both got him out of there in round 2 in close fights. Brendan Allen, I thought, was leading the dance in the Chris Curtis fight. I thought he was a step behind in the Sean Strickland fight. And of course, that loss got a lot better with age, now that Strickland is a world champion. But that's how he's been beatable in the last, whatever, 5+ years. Has been TKOs to really good strikers and powerful guys in the middle of a fight. Smack dab in the middle of it. That's not a path to victory for Paul Craig. I mean, Paul Craig could take over a fight and excel, especially in round 2 or down the stretch, but he is not the guy that's going to turn things around on the feet. I think Paul Craig could out-scramble somebody to fatigue, but he's not going to beat him up and get the ball rolling on the feet. Brendan Allen, he's been on quite a winning streak as well. He beat Andre Muniz just like Paul Craig, but he got him out of there in round 3 instead of round 2. He beat Kevin Holland. That's not part of the streak, but he did beat Kevin Holland, and he strangled him in round 2. He beat Jacob Malkoun. That was part of this streak. That guy's a very good wrestler. And that was a very close fight, to be honest, but Brendan Allen walked away with a nod. And he beat Bruno Silva, of course, in his most recent fight. And was that? I think that was his most recent fight. But Bruno Silva, yeah, he almost knocked him out. He knocked him down and ended up just going through him at the end of round 1. And I'm picking Brendan Allen. I think if Brendan Allen wins this fight, it's going to be a finish, and I do expect him to win this fight. I couldn't tell you if it'd be more likely to be a TKO/knockout or a submission. I have doubts about Paul Craig's chin. I think Brendan Allen on top of Paul Craig is still more likely to finish Paul Craig than Paul Craig is from the bottom, despite me carrying on about how fucking good he is. And submission-wise, Brendan Allen, I think, presents a lot of trouble for Paul Craig as well. He's a tough guy to submit. Brendan Allen's a very good grappler, and he's big and strong and power his way out of things he can't out-technical his way out of. And I also think Brendan Allen can duplicate that Jimmy Crute success. Brendan Allen on top is a monster, just like Jimmy Crute, and I think he's better overall. And I could see him even dominating Paul Craig on the ground and going through him in a pure grappling sense, getting a submission. So it's going to happen one way or the other, but I think Brendan Allen gets the finish, whether it's knockout on the feet, TKO, or knockout on the ground, or even a submission. Brendan Allen by finish is the pick, and Paul Craig by whatever is the bet. Now, look, the odds are worth it for Paul Craig to throw a sprinkle on it or whatever, but he's not my pick to win this fight. I think Brendan Allen goes through him in every sense. So that's the pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.